Thanks for stopping by. Wanted to share with you a story today. As you know, this blog has been about my ancestors and just sharing some stories with them. Today, I would like to share with you a little bit about my dad. My dad passed away just over a week ago on December 1st, and this past Thursday we had his funeral. And so today I want to just give you a little bit of the history of my dad, Thomas Eugene Lewis. And this picture is actually one of my favorites of him. I think it kind of captures him pretty well. Loving father, loving grandfather, and we got a lot of glare on that, but that's actually two of his grandchildren. That's Maya and Lex. Those are two of Neil's kids. But I think as I've gone through photos this past week, there's similar pictures of all of his kids and grandkids. I think that this kind of typifies what I think a lot of us remember him by. So what I'd like to do is actually today I want to read to you the obituary that was printed in the Ogden Standard Examiner on Sunday, the December 3rd. And my siblings and I got to sit around and remember a lot of things, put some thoughts on paper. And with the help of Lindquist Mortuary, this was the final version that appeared in print. And I just wanted to kind of document that and have it here for you today. So if you'll bear with me, I just kind of want to read through this, if I might. So it says, Thomas Eugene Lewis, 83, of Pleasant View, Utah, passed away peacefully at his home with his loving family at his side. Born on December 27th of 1933 in Logan to Thomas Alexander and Mildred Uveda Nelson Lewis, Tom was raised and schooled there, graduating from Logan High School. Throughout his life, Tom spent 4 years in Los Angeles, California, 2 years in Valparaiso, Florida. I was actually born in Los Angeles, Burbank area. Julie was born in Valparaiso. He then spent 5 years in Renton, Washington, 26 years in Roy, and 25 years in Pleasant View, Utah. Tom met Charlene Jane Burbank, and after courting, they were sealed on the 19th of September, 1955, in the Logan, Utah LDS Temple, raising 5 wonderful children. Okay. The family was deeply saddened at her passing on the 14th of July, 1977, and now Tom and Charlene have been reunited. He was blessed to meet LeJean Stevenson Child, and they were married on the 3rd of May, 1978, in the Ogden, Utah LDS Temple. They continued to raise their now blended family in Roy, consisting of her 3 children and Tom's 5 children. Tom greatly blessed the life of LeJean and her children, as well as the lives of his own, meaning his own children, and he was indeed. Tom had an extensive education. Prior to enlisting in the United States Air Force, I guess we should have changed that. He did not enlist in the Air Force. He was commissioned, second lieutenant. He graduated from Utah State Agricultural College, as it was called back then, with a degree in aeronautics. He continued his studies at Utah State University, where he received his Master's of Business Administration, and also received a degree in geology from Weber State College. I remember as a boy the time that he took to study. I actually got to go on a field trip with Dad on his geology program and hiked to the bottom of the Grand Canyon with a bunch of geology students from Weber State. I was in high school at the time and really enjoyed that. I do remember as he was working on his MBA, all the nights that he would sit, they had a little table and chair with a little light set up in the bedroom. And I remember him working very hard. Was a custodian at the seminary building at Sandridge Junior High School. And I remember taking turns going and helping clean there. So he could get that done and then run up and do his studies. And that long commute up to Utah State every day. Very good. He was a member of the Sigma Alpha Epsilon fraternity through USU. During his years in the Air Force and later in the Air Force Reserve, Tom was honored to serve our nation, and he retired at the rank of Lieutenant Colonel. Tom also worked for Boeing and was also employed at Thiokol, continuing his service in the aeronautics industry right up until his retirement. A lifelong member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Tom particularly enjoyed serving a mission with Eugene in the LDS Ogden Family History Center, and most recently as an ordnance worker in the Ogden LDS Temple. Some of his hobbies included golf, skiing, and woodworking. A devoted family man and one of the kindest, most loving, and Christ-like men to be found, Tom was a real handyman and particularly devoted to both his family's and others' family history research. He was extremely knowledgeable on the subject and always willing to lend a hand to anyone in need. His greatest joy was his family. Children and grandchildren will cherish the holiday parties and many fond memories of times together. And I will say that at the funeral services, there were a lot of really great memories that were shared about family gatherings, the parties, the spook alley, the dinners at, as I know many called it, Upchuckarama, all the special activities, the holiday parties, the cards and letters on birthdays. Dad was really good at remembering and trying to get to any activity that he possibly could. Dad and Eugene were married for 39 years, and goes on and lists. What I would like to point out here is at the time of his passing, Dad had 34 grandchildren and 37 great-grandchildren. And if I recall correctly, I think hearing Eugene talk, there's 4 more great-grandchildren that will be born early next year. So that's quite a legacy to leave behind. It was wonderful to be together for Dad's funeral. We had a wonderful dinner afterwards, a family dinner at the Pleasant View 18th Ward Chapel in Harrisville. So many people there. It was, I think, a great tribute and a great legacy to him to have so many there. The outpouring of love and condolences and wishes from family and friends was really amazing. Universally, I think it was said that Tom was one of the kindest, most gentle, Christ-like people that you could ever hope to meet. And I think that's a great lesson for all, and that it may be said of us something similar, that if you're looking for an example, Dad was one who was probably, as it said, he was without guile. And I think that's a pretty fair assessment of him. I've been thinking this past week, too, one of the words that come to my mind when I think about Dad is precision. Even sitting on the counter in the kitchen when I was there this past week was the drawings on the graph paper of the deck that he had planned out. And Dad was always very precise in everything that he wanted to do. Had the plans and drawings and estimations and all kinds of calculations that he was doing. He was very precise in what he wanted to do. But I think even beyond that, even in his own life, with his love of the church and the love of the gospel and love of the Lord, he talked, I think it was Blake that mentioned it, that precision and accuracy in the house of the Lord, and that he lived his life that way as well, as a man who was precise in keeping the covenants and that he had made, and not being ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And he was very quick. I know that he's been to visit us and has stood up and borne his testimony on fast and testimony meetings, and of his love of family, love of country, and love of God. And I think that's a wonderful way to remember him by. So thanks for stopping by. Come back next week. We're actually going to be talking about Salem, Massachusetts, and witches that are in our family line. So hope to see you then. Take care. Bye-bye.